Hello, everybody. It's 8:16 p.m. Central Time on the 19th of January, 2026. Hope you're doing well this evening, and I've got some breaking news for everybody. A new 5.0, 4.9 earthquake has struck Southern California right next to Salton Sea and is shaking up Southern California. I see that's lighting up the feeds now. I'm going to get a display capture turned on so you guys can just see what I see ever so slightly better. We're going to start out over here on my YouTube channel, where here on the 15th, I put out a warning for Southern California to be on watch for new 5.0 level activity, or very close to it, and to be watching Southern California in particular in between our 4.0 and our 3.0 that had previously struck several days ago in Southern California. So the warning has now come to fruition with a new 4.9, 4.8 USGS, 4.9 Giafon Potsdam earthquake here. Let's get the info from the USGS. Oh, okay, I see they have it at 4.9 as well. So USGS has it at 4.9. We'll get the coordinates and put it in. I'll tell you, it's right next to Salton Sea volcano. And I am losing my voice right now again, guys. If you're listening and you might sound a little rough, it's because it is. I was outside in freezing cold temperatures in the Midwest, which is just brutal when you're trying to talk outside. So let's get this on the screen and go see the location. I will also turn on the Smithsonian volcanic place marks here. Okay, so we've got this all turned on. So the earthquake here, Southern California on USGS. Right here, we'll get the plate boundary map open. There it is on the plate boundary map, which is the red line is the, of course, plate boundary between the Pacific and North America, but it's also the San Andreas. And then I want to go figure out how far we are from the warned location. So we're right inside of the warned location. Our 4 point whatever was right down here in Southern California, right down towards the border, and the 3 was up here in the LA Basin area. And so we have now broken off with the new earthquake at the pretty much the halfway point between the two. If we go around the outside edge of the plate boundary, we're talking about maybe 20 miles here. Now I'm trying to get it down to about 200 miles. So this is definitely close enough. How far is that? It's 12 miles, and it is 70 miles all the way over to the coast. So again, we are certainly right smack in the middle of where we were looking, and we are certainly there on the magnitude. Let's go click on the information from the USGS, see what the origin page shows for magnitudes on the local magnitude station list. Multiple stations are showing 5s. So what we do in this case is we toss out the high end and we toss out the low end. And that will tell us more like what the earthquake really was. So on the high end, it looks like we're reaching 5.3, 5.4. And on the low end, it looks like 4.7, 4.8. So toss out the 4.7s and 4.8s, 4.5s. Toss out the 5.4s, 5.5s, 5.3s, 5.2s. And that leaves us with a 4.9 to 5. So that is right on the magnitude. Now, on the timing, this is definitely timed perfectly for the forecast. We usually see it within a few days' time, as I told you in my update. So here's where I put out the warning on the night of the 15th, and we are now on the 19th, so it's spot on in timing. Let's go look back at the USGS plate boundary map and just see where this all came from. In case you didn't know, a few days back, there was 6.0 level activity up off the coast to the northwest, out here on the Juan de Fuca fracture zone. So right there's the 6, and it struck on the 15th going into the 16th international time. But again, I'm going to say it really was the 16th international time, but here in the States, it was the 15th. My video talks about it. That's what prompted me to issue the warning. Now, it's not this 6 causing a 5 down south. It's that this 6 and this 5 down south are both caused by the plate boundary moving as a wave is going through it. That wave is coming from somewhere far away. It's guided, the wave is guided along the plate boundaries all the way from the West Pacific, where this seismic wave originates. So down below the West Pacific, we get deep earthquakes, letting us know something's coming up. And then up, out, and away it comes, whatever it is. It's a seismic wave of some kind, as I call it, we don't have a technical term for it yet, a quake low frequency of some kind that comes up and spreads out following these red lines that I just showed you on the USGS plate boundary map. These are the plate boundaries. But there's a wave coming up from below them, out of the magma, coming up into the plate. And then it spreads out following these red lines all the way to the US. And it was sixes across the board heading to us. When a six struck off the west coast, that prompted me to issue the warning for a 5 down south. And the reason is not that a 6 is causing a 5 down south. It's that the 6 and the 5 are both caused by this wave that's going to be going across the United States in the next couple days. So we're talking about the edge of the North American craton, where we talk about the wave going across the edge of the plate. So if you're just now tuning in, let me just really quickly recap. We're live on Twitch right now. A new 5 has struck down in Southern California, 4.9. And it's a significant earthquake. It's the first 5 in a few months, I think, in California. Now, we see activity down in Mexico all the time, in Baja and in the Gulf of California. So take a look at the craton map. You see where the purple part comes into Southern California. That's right up to the plate boundary where we have the black arrow out in California going down to Mexico. But that purple part, that purple portion of the craton diagram here, should start to shift as the wave goes across. And again, let me stress, it's not a wave from the earthquake. It's a separate wave that's going through the plate that drops off earthquakes along the way. And that's a huge, huge thing to figure out, that we're talking about a wave that goes across things and drops off earthquakes along the way. That being said, a 5 down south is enough to knock things off shelves, and we've seen a 5 down south send news anchors diving underneath their desks. You remember that video from a few years ago? It became a meme, actually, as it made the news. But this is part of overall movement we're expecting. We're going to expect 4.0 level activity to go down through Texas, over through Oklahoma, and we're going to expect a new 4 ultimately to strike up in Quebec, up by Maine and New Hampshire in the next week. Also, a new 4 is due in the southeast. This could go either from Georgia, northwest Georgia, out into the ocean. So it looks like it's going to be 4s across the plate in the next few days. That's enough to get people's attention. Now, on the New Madrid seismic zone, where I live here in Missouri, we have to watch for a swarm to take place. Small earthquakes. Should be a bunch of small earthquakes on the New Madrid, and then over to the west down in Texas, 4, and over to the east, 4s. So 1 over off the east coast, or along the east coast, and 1 up in the northeast, Quebec. Basically along the edge of the craton diagram that I just showed you. One more time. Just follow it up to the northeast on the interior edge. In the past, we've seen this happen many times in the past, when there's like a 5 or a 6 up off the west coast to the northwest on the Juan de Fuca fracture zone. It's shortly thereafter followed within days by movement down south. You could even call it compensation movement, that if there's breaking up on one side, you would expect breaking on the other. But what's causing the breaking? This gets back into that wave I was telling you about, that scientists still haven't yet discovered, that we're talking about now in theory, but we're seeing it in action. The equidistant spacing of earthquakes letting us know that something's dropping off something along the way as it spreads. But it's not one earthquake causing the other. Like, it's too far for a 6 up off the coast of the northwest, too far away and too long to precipitate a 5 down south. That's like 1,000, 1,500 miles and 4 days apart, 3.5 days apart. So what happened? A new wave came in 3.5 days ago, went down to Southern California, bounced back into itself several times, and is now broken in what's called a standing wave that forms. Now, as the wave breaks, it should spread, and so we should see new earthquakes dropped off along the way, along the edge of the North American craton, for instance, starting down in Texas on the southwest edge, following the rusty brownish part and purple part up to the northeast over the next several days now. So don't be caught off guard if an earthquake strikes on the East Coast in the next few days, for instance. If you're just now tuning in, the earthquake we were looking for in Southern California has struck. And they have it at 4.9. Right here, 4.9. So 4.9 from the USGS. We'll see if they leave it there. I will take it at 4.9. By the way, you can come join the club 4.9 over on Twitch if you're watching on YouTube. I'm live, usually 24/7 or thereabouts. We're on Twitch, which I don't know if you want to watch it, but Twitch is just like YouTube, but it's for normally gaming and so forth. But they allow me to do science there. They have a science and technology section. And it's $4.99 a month to support my channel if you want to jump in and join in the chat room. Otherwise, it's free to watch over on Twitch. But we have the Club 4.9 over on Twitch. Long story on why it's called Club 4.9. But you can join up and find out. Meanwhile, I'm going to record this and go put it on YouTube for everybody to watch back to see that the earthquake we were expecting has struck. Now, at the location, this is one other thing I'd like to say. I did not look up to see if there's anything around this location other than the fault which it struck on and the volcano right next to it. So here is the earthquake epicenter, but right next to the epicenter is, or are, the Salton Buttes, which are old volcanoes that have been ground down over time. And on the side of the volcano, humans have drilled in to do geothermal heat powering turbines to provide electricity. But the earthquake is far enough north. Again, it's up here. Let's search one more time. It's north of Salton Sea by several miles on the edge of Joshua Tree, and we're in some national park area right there. Over to the east, there are some old volcanoes that are not marked. I don't have Smithsonian place marks on these. Let's just turn it on and make sure. Yeah, there's no Smithsonian place mark on this, but we do have older volcanoes over to the east that are not even, they don't even bother to mark them. They're extinct. I mean, to give you an example, there's several volcanoes out here on the north side of the highway. I mean, you see them, right? But then they have this called the Lavic Lake Volcanic Field without putting names on each peak. So the same kind of goes down to the south, but I wouldn't even call this volcanic related. It certainly is fault zone related. Look, right here next to it, we have remnants of the Pleistocene to Holocene basaltic flows and pyroclastic deposits lie on an alluvium. These volcanoes are mapped as Pleistocene. It's called the Pinto Basin Salton Creek. So you see how many there are over here. But, I mean, you're not going to call this a volcano. It's more of an ancient volcanic field. But the fault there, that's what I look for. So if the fault is moving, that's what we're expecting. Is there anything else here next to this location in question? What's this? Now, I might not want to get answers to some of the things. If I start finding weird things out here, then we'll just shut it down, because I don't want to get into weird stuff. We can find all sorts of stuff. I'm not going to say it's related, like the military base that right next to here. I don't think it's related to the military base. But there is a large military base over here to the east for the Marines. But I don't think it's related to that. So let's sum it up. You need to have an earthquake plan, and you can watch it come your way. So now I hope this kind of removes some of the fear of earthquakes for people who are new here, or if you're watching on YouTube. We can know usually days ahead of time of regions which are going to move in usually about a 200-mile stretch. So my forecasting, I'm trying to get it down to 200 miles, and within 7 days, and within 1 magnitude, kind of like a hurricane forecast. And if you want to know how to do your own forecasting, it's no secret. I'm not trying to gatekeep this or sell it or anything. It's for public benefit. It's free for you to watch, read, or learn. And it's on my YouTube channel in text and in a cheap, easy to watch robo voice video. So I'm not even trying to make a name for myself, although I probably should at this point at least try to push it using my platform that I have. For the longest time, I've been just doing the research and putting it out there, but this one should just drive it home for everybody that you can know within a region, down to about 200-mile stretch, down to about 7 days, and within a magnitude. And if you want to know how to do it, I've already explained it, so there's no secret behind it. The methodology that I used to come to this is in my video from the start of this week. I explained myself fully on why we would watch down here. I measured the area in between the two earthquakes, and we found the halfway point between them, and this gets into what's called a standing wave. If you've got a wave on one side and you've got a wave on the other, and there's a halfway point between both waves, if you have a standing wave, a new wave will precipitate up in the middle in between the other two waves as the wave reflects into itself. Simply put, there's a middle point between two waves that a new earthquake pops off in between. And that can be forecast. And it usually takes a few days of the wave reflecting into itself. Now, I think there's a way to measure this. It's an electrostatic wave. So it's an electronic wave, but it's also physical, and it goes through the plates. So I think there's a way to detect it on low frequency antenna can be installed on the ground or in the ground to listen for this on a spectrometer. Anyway, digressing into what I think it could be and what could be used to detect it. But right now, we can just look at the current earthquakes and we can find the halfway points between the current earthquakes for new earthquakes to strike that are significant. So it's no chance or coincidence that the biggest earthquake other than this 4.9 of the week struck the halfway point between the 6 and the 4.9. The 4.4 that struck at the start of the week struck first. So really, this goes back to when the 6 started. What precipitated the 6? It was a wave reflecting into itself that precipitated the 4.4, precipitated the 6 as it reflected into itself, and more energy was pumped in from across over here, where we already had a whole bunch of 6 level activity. So waves equal to 6. The wave spreading out, it spreads out across plates, drops off earthquakes along the way. So you can watch this come your way like the weather, which gets me into you can be prepared and watch for it to come your way like a flood. And so if my viewers knew over the past several days, to look for this. So when it hit, instead of them running around screaming, oh my God, it's an earthquake, they're like, oh, there's what we were looking for. There's the quake. They're already taking shelter underneath a table or a desk if things are falling. Or maybe they took the time to take things off shelves when they heard the warning this week. When you saw my video earlier this week, if you're a viewer of mine. If you're a new viewer or somebody who's new to the topic, you can do this yourself. Okay, much love. I'll be back if you need me, and I will do a new forecast in just a little bit. I don't want to mingle topics here, but I will do a new earthquake forecast. We'll put it out publicly for free on YouTube to watch and to share. Be safe. And remember my motto, I use this all the time. It's like Boy Scoutish, but it's true, which is don't be scared. Be prepared. And being prepared means watching and knowing what's coming your way. It's like a weather now. Nobody has any excuses. If you see a bunch of 6s popping off the West Pacific and you see them come your way over to the West Coast, you shouldn't be too shocked if you get the new 5 down south as the wave is absorbed into the plate and taken across over the next several days. But this is not an earthquake wave. It's some other kind of wave that makes the earthquakes. It's a very low frequency wave that's spaced hundreds to even thousands of miles apart between peaks. But yet it drops off equidistant spaced earthquakes hundreds to thousands of miles apart in the course of a day or two as it spreads. In this case, it took 2.5, 3 days of this wave going down and back on the West Coast for it to break down south. It should go over to the east next, over the next several days, across the U.S., following the edge of the craton that I showed you. It'll follow it like a wave guide in a microwave guides microwaves to your food. In this case, the craton edge guides the wave up and over to the east. It's trying to escape out and away from where it came from. Peace out, guys.